Our menstrual campaign is a campaign to address menstruation from many different angles. We've developed a coalition of like-minded organisations that are working on the issue of menstruation. It's a very urgent sort of topic that we need to address.
Percent plastic.
Plastic applicator, and then they're in plastic bag.
Plastic.
Waking up to plastic pollution.
Hi, I'm Caroline Russell. I'm a Green Party London Assembly member and chair of the London Assembly Environment Committee. We had been looking at single-use plastics in the committee, plastic bottles, plastic coffee cups, and I became aware that there's a huge amount of plastic in single-use period products. Some of them are 90% plastic.
If you think about menstrual products, they're all individually wrapped in more plastic. They might have a plastic applicator and then they're in a plastic bag. This is all an illusion because they're not treated as medical devices in the UK, so therefore they're not sterile anyway.
Susie, years ago, chopped up all the different parts of a menstrual pad. If you take each layer off, you can work out actually what each layer really is. And she worked out that an average pack of sanitary pads contained equivalent of 4 carrier bags worth of plastic, with all the packaging that was involved and the product itself. So our pads are completely plastic free and they work just like conventional products. It just doesn't need to be in there.
These plastics and menstrual products find their way into our waterways and our oceans.
I'm Natalie Fee. I'm the founder of City to Sea, a campaigning organisation running projects and initiatives to stop plastic pollution at source. Flushing menstrual products in the UK is a huge problem. We're looking at around 2.5 million tampons that get flushed every day, around 1.5 million pads and around 700,000 panty liners. Now, most of those contain plastic. In fact, nearly all of them contain plastic.
Plastic, once it gets into the ocean, doesn't biodegrade, it actually just breaks down. The small bits of plastic attract more toxic chemicals onto their surface. They become a very toxic mouthful for fish and sea mammals who eat them.
The simplest solution is not to flush any period products down the toilet, but also not to flush any things like wet wipes or facial wipes because they cause blockages in the sewers when they mix with fat. And when a fat bed blocks the sewer companies have to open up the overflows, which means that anything else that's been flushed down the toilet, all of that then just floods out into the rivers and seas directly. So the simplest thing really is to remember to just flush the 3 Ps, pee, paper and poo, go down there.
Many people just don't realise that flushing tampons and period pads causes £12 million a year of cost to Thames Water to clear them up. Either they cause localised blockages or they go all the way to the sewage works and then they have to be scraped off the screens and they have to be sent to landfill because they cannot at that point be incinerated.
Disposal is basically spending money, creating pollution, and that takes years and years to degrade.
There's several main health concerns. The biggest one being that we're not exactly sure what's in these menstrual products. My name is Helen Lynn. I am health advisor for the Women's Environmental Network. I'm an independent researcher and campaigner. Even though the manufacturers in recent years have been more forthcoming with listing on their websites the different ingredients, they still use generic terms like fragrance or plastic. The information we have comes from tests carried out by NGOs and consumer organisations. They are still finding levels of dioxins and chlorine. It could be that there are small levels of dioxin in the background, but it is one of the most toxic chemicals known to humankind. It's incredibly persistent, it's carcinogenic. It could come from the bleaching process they're using.
Industry has tried to fight back by saying that carcinogens in the levels that you're exposed to them is not going to be harmful to a human person, but it's bioaccumulative. So if someone's using tampons that have been bleached with chlorine, that could build up in your body. There's no way out for them. I was pretty horrified myself to learn about cotton. It's one of the most pesticide sprayed crops in the world. Organic regulation not only prevents pesticide and herbicide sprays, it protects the workers those who are exposed to conventional cotton spraying in the fields, the communities nearby, there is so much research that shows the harmful impact that it has on the health, respiration issues, birth defects. It's being passed on through the generations.
Recent tests have shown level of certain pesticides, including glyphosate, which is a probable carcinogen, pyrethroids as well, which are neurotoxins. There's quite a few of these chemicals that are linked to cancer, to reproductive disorders, allergens, added fragrance. There's no other product that mops up blood that has added fragrance in it. No plasters or bandages or even nappies, which you might say mop up far more fragrant. And fragrance itself can hide up to 3,000 different types of chemicals, in its makeup. A number of chemicals are endocrine disruptors. Endocrine disrupting chemicals, or EDC, actually interfere with our own natural hormones. Our endocrine system actually controls all aspects of life. So if anything interferes, it's bad news really for our body.
And other ingredients that are worth considering: dyes, perfumes, super absorbent gels. They're not biodegradable, but they're also pretty nasty to produce as well. You don't need any colours in your sanitary pad, you don't need perfumes, so why have it? Why produce it?
The vagina is incredibly absorbent. It's so absorbent that you could actually deliver drugs via the vagina. That's not a place you want to be putting menstrual products containing even small levels of chemical. If there are tests, which I'm sure there are, carried out by the manufacturers, they are kept confidential.
It's really exciting to see how the market has just exploded. So we've got like washable period pants, we've got washable pads, we've got reusable cups, like 3 really easy, simple ways to manage your period in a zero waste, plastic free way. But for people who want to still use disposables, then switching to organic products are obviously better for our bodies as well as better for our environment, because they're using organic cotton, they're not causing as much pollution in the waste stream. Of course, organic products still shouldn't be flushed down the loo, but I think it's a really empowering way for people to reduce their personal plastic consumption.
I'm Jessica Gitcham and I'm the Sales and Marketing Manager at Natracare. The brand was founded in 1989. It was at a time when there were only plastic-based products on the market and some reusable options. And that's where Susie came in. She spent a lot of time, first of all, campaigning to try to change the products that were out there. She came up against a brick wall. So she created the world's first organic cotton tampon, created a line of pads, panty liners, and the brand basically expanded from there. We don't use plastic inside our products. We use instead a plant-based biofilm. If you have the ability to, you can chop them up and put them in your compost bin. It goes full circle then. You know, they're made from the soil, it goes back to the soil.
And I was like, okay, let's have a look at what are the motivating tagliners. And then the first thing it came was like, wake up, kick ass, repeat. Hi, I'm Ruby, I'm the CEO and co-founder of WUCA. The whole journey of WUCA started with Women's Environmental Network. Me and Natasha, we coordinated the first pilot project for Environmental Project. We came to here in St Albans and talked with one of the school, and we said that we want to give every girl an informed choice about various menstrual products. While I was sharing my story with them, which is using reusable cloth, sari rags for my menstrual product, then I had this eureka moment. I was like, oh, why can't we build an underwear with absorbent pad in it? So all you have to do is wear pants and that's it, solves the problem. And came home and started doing material research, and here I am. One WUCA replaces 100 tampons. Everybody is embracing the whole idea around it.
Not everyone is going to be able to use a cup. There are some people who don't have the facilities for, managing their period using a menstrual cup. But for many women and people who menstruate, the use of a menstrual cup is going to save them huge amounts of money, £2,000 over your menstruating lifetime.
Innovation sometimes is much quicker than health and safety considerations. These new products are still adhering to the same old taboos around menstruation, that the blood is somehow different, it's somehow dirty. They add antimicrobials or antibacterials. Once again, we're not allowed to find out what actually these products are. Is there independent testing of these products? Not that we know of. On the waste side, it's a big plus. On the chemical side, it's still maybe a concern.
Because it's all about looking after yourself, and plus you'll be looking after the environment too.
I really believe that it's a human right to be able to access period supplies. You don't choose to menstruate. I'm Gabby Edlin and I'm the CEO and founder of Bloody Good Period. Period poverty is specific in that it is not being able to afford the products that you need, tampons, sanitary towels, cups, reusables. It affects mostly women and girls and people who menstruate, so maybe trans men as well, who are more likely to be forgotten in society. It's very much a hidden type of poverty, or it has been up until this point, because of the taboos that surround periods in general. About a year and a half ago, when I started volunteering at an asylum seeker drop-in centre, I realised that they didn't have any sanitary towels or tampons at the centre, and when I asked if they'd be giving them out, I was told, well, we give them out in emergencies. And instantly I sort of knew, I guess, that every period is an emergency, no matter who you are, where you come from, if you don't have the supplies that you need. So I set about collecting them via a Facebook status, just asking friends and family to send them, and that grew really quickly into what Bloody Good Period is today. I was particularly interested in focusing on asylum seekers because they receive £37 a week and that is it. They're not allowed to work and they're not allowed to claim benefits on top of that. Inevitably, pads which can cost, you know, about £10 per period, especially if you've got a heavy period like many asylum seekers do due to the trauma, there's just no space to pay for them.
My name's Catherine Rogers. I work for the Tackling Period Poverty team at No More Taboo. The main part of our work is raising awareness with low-income and vulnerable people in Bristol about reusable products. We can kind of think about vulnerable people, low-income people, non-binary people who might be affected by their periods in different ways. What are you going to do on your period if you're homeless? We can start to take action once we realise that these kind of things are an issue.
It would surprise many people how many people who aren't asylum seekers get in touch with us asking for products. Like uni students, people at work. I think a lot of the time there's a sort of immediate jump to, well, no, that can't possibly be true. But it is.
When it comes to developing country like Nepal, India, the problem lies in the sanitation and hygiene. And again, there's this whole embarrassment taboo around it. So breaking that barrier first of taboos, of shyness, of discreetness, I think that's the first step to go. Second is like providing with toilet facilities. I don't know, like many people know or not, but there are still women who go out in the fields for the toilet. I mean, toilets are like basic human rights. So I think every girl, every woman should be provided with facilities so that they can go and change. And then the next is the education, telling them like how to keep themselves clean, how can they wash the rags, how to dry the rags, those kind of things. They already use reusable menstrual product.
There really has been a shift in how much people care about this stuff. New, organic, sustainable, environmentally friendly products, all of which that I can think of have the responsibility to end period poverty built into their mission. We're seeing like the big brands as well, not really, I think, doing the best that they could, but really sort of jumping on that bandwagon and using period poverty, unfortunately, as a marketing ploy. But we've got to be really cautious, I think, of who is profiting, really, and whether, you know, whether that can ever really be real, I think, from the brands that have sold us shame and plastic for years and years. Like a couple of people, more than a couple, have advised me to like call it just bloody good, but I refuse to do that because people need to say the word period, especially when they're uncomfortable about it.
Half of the population around the world go through the same phenomena, right? Every year, every month. Then why are we just silent about it, or why are we discreetly talking about it?
And that's not to say that like the people who are menstruating aren't talking about it. They're talking about it in their families, in their workplaces, in classrooms, and groups of friends. But anywhere that's sort of official and important, so the UN, you know, up until pads recently. It was just completely ignored because it was seen as embarrassing and shameful.
Getting people to talk about what products they're using was a completely different ballgame 25 years ago. We tried to run PR campaigns in some of the sort of glossy magazines, and some magazines just didn't want to talk to us at all. They were just not interested in the subject. The internet has changed everything. We're so much more willing to share and talk about our personal experiences. It's wonderful, not just because we're selling more products, but because people can actually have access to honest information, and that's what we're all about.
I grew up in Nepal, and I knew about periods since very young because my mum used to not go to the kitchen, so everybody knows that, oh, she's on a natune, so that's like untouchable, so, oh, you're not allowed to go and touch the kitchen, cook anything, go to the temple. But then, because we grew up with it, I never found it like it's a taboo. I thought it was like a part of our life. But when I came over here, it's more about people hesitating to talk about it. It's because everything is so discreet, you know, like nobody knows that you are on your period kind of thing.
We just need to think about every single time we've been to the toilet at a workplace and we put the pad or tampon up our sleeve, or for example the ways we talk about our periods. We don't ever say, oh, I'm on my period or I'm menstruating. We're gonna say, oh, I'm on, or on the blob, or that is a taboo.
I think that's one of the reasons like many health problems get undiagnosed. Our reproductive system is all connected to our period, right?
We see period poverty in quite a broad sense, so not being able to access education around menstruation and information about different kind of menstrual conditions and things like that. Obviously, taboos around menstruation can really hamper people to just kind of know what's going on with their body and can be dangerous sometimes.
Hopefully, conditions like endometriosis, PCOS can be diagnosed as early as possible.
I can't bear talking about a taboo, like just actually smash the taboo in what you're doing, in your actions, and that's the best way, I think.
And when we were talking about menstrual product at school, only 1 to 2 girls knew about menstrual cup.
We also have developed a workshop program in schools as well as in universities. We aim to make sure that the workshop program is balanced and gives information about all the different products that are available, whether they're reusable or disposable, because there may be a lack of this information in schools where young people get the majority of the information about menstruation.
The Environment Committee is very aware that if our schools are using period positive language, addressing the stigma around menstruation, they will then be able to alert young people to the existence of products that are reusable.
We believe that menstruators in schools shouldn't just be given their free plastic disposables, which generally tell people how to use them, and then their sort of educational videos tend to end with a girl cycling off on her bicycle having just inserted her tampon, and that's it. There's nothing really showing us what happens next, which is how to properly dispose of your tampon.
Nobody really knows very much about periods. We don't have much education about them. It doesn't matter what gender you are. I was talking to my friends recently and there was a whole confusing conversation about whether the womb and the uterus are the same thing, and nobody really knew what was going on.
With our education programme, we train teachers to deliver the lessons themselves. One of my favourite stories was that an all-boys school signed up to the programme as well. And I love to think that there's a new generation of boys that will become men that will really understand women's periods, and that it's important to have a bin in the bathroom so when their girlfriend comes around they don't have to wonder what to do with their tampon and they don't flush it down the loo. So I think that's really exciting.
Surprisingly, there is quite a receptivity to switching to reusable menstrual product once they know about the products that are available and know about what sort of conventional and traditional products, what their impact is. They are very empowered to make a different choice.
I think the best way to do it is to do a bloody good collection. That can be done like at your uni, at your workplace, at your school. People bring in pads, donation. You're not going in and talking about your period, so you don't feel sort of embarrassed or shy about it. You're going in and talking about periods in general, and that is what then sparks these conversations about period poverty, about just menstrual equity in general. Often
men or people who aren't around women very much, they wouldn't have held the products before. They won't really know what they are, and actually that's the first step to breaking down barriers, is actually just being like, this is the pad, this is actually what it looks like, this is how it works. It's a really great way of just talking about menstruation and making it just normal.
The best thing that could come out of this is that people have access to the knowledge of the different kinds of products that are available, and that those people who are still using plastic-filled disposable products know that it's much better to put them in the bin than it is to flush them down the toilet. And also, I hope that the manufacturers will have a really good think about whether it's really appropriate to be putting so many products out, you know, into the retail environment that are filled with plastic and that have such a damaging impact on our environment.
The companies should be much more transparent about the process they use to make these products, the additives they use, what's in them exactly.
It's really difficult with all the different labels that exist, but something that's certified to the Soil Association, or cotton that's certified to the Global Organic Textile Standard, it takes a lot of the work out away from you for research. After that, yeah, just being mindful of perhaps the phrases that brands can use quite liberally. Things like natural, things that perhaps suggest cotton feel. Cotton feel means that it's not cotton. If it was cotton, they'd be using it. If it doesn't say organic cotton, it probably isn't organic cotton.
Really think about trying some of the alternatives, and even if you don't use them with every period, even if you use them at home or at night, it's a safer and better alternative to the mainstream products.
There are many ways that you can get involved in the Environmenstrual campaign. We have a research briefing that's coming out on our website, when.org.uk. You can join the Environmenstrual Coalition if you're part of an organisation that works on any menstrual related issues. You can follow us on our social media on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter to keep up to date.
I'm Caroline Russell, I'm a London Assembly member. I am very happy to support Periods Without Plastic.
Everything we're doing is out of necessity, comfort, usability, but with the environment and women in mind.
Extremely concerning, and something that we could actually look at stopping now by using alternative products.
Hopefully the price can go down so that we are more affordable by loads of people, and through charities we will be able to help projects all around the world.
Come and find us on Facebook at City to See. You can become part of the wave of change just by sharing things and getting involved.
That's what we need, that's what we live on, that's our bread and butter. So people can go to our website /donate.
Virtual period poverty gift, which is a £10 donation that provides a place on a Tackling Period Poverty workshop for a vulnerable person.